go take a look at the presentation. There we go. All right. Yay. So again, welcome to Indy Xamarin. Tonight we're talking about telemetry and analytics with AppCenter. My name's Auri Rahimzadeh. You can just call me Auri. I'm a solutions architect at Klipsch, and I own a small consulting company called Auri's Ideas. If you'd like to reach out to me, I'm Auri on Twitter, and I have Auri.net. And then, of course, my email address is Auri@Auri.net. So pretty easy to reach me if you have any questions. Speaking of questions, if you have any questions during this presentation, feel free to throw them in the chat or just speak up. I will have plenty of time after the presentation to go over things. So, it's not just going to end. It's not like a build event or something. So, yay. I hope everyone's going to build. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. Not much about Xamarin, some stuff about Maui, but still, a lot of it's quite the focus on Azure. But on a slight tangent, Maui is supposedly expected in November of this year. And I'm guessing that's when we'll get Visual Studio 2022 as well. So, yay. We'll see. Hope springs eternal. I can't wait for a 64-bit Visual Studio. All right. Cool. All right, there we go. So when we've written our apps, we make a lot of bad assumptions. When we build our app, we assume that we found the bugs, oftentimes, even with our small groups of beta testers. So I'm not saying that people test only by themselves and then think that they caught everything. But even if you have like a team of beta testers, they'll miss things. So what we end up doing is we wait for crashes. And sometimes those crashes can be surfaced via bad reviews or customer service calls. And it's by that point, it's too late to be proactive because your rating has already suffered or customer service has been deluged with us, just swamped with calls and messages saying something doesn't work that you never thought would be an issue. But you assume you've caught everything. Right? You've got unit tests, you've got integration tests, for what those are worth on mobile, because it's hard to do some of those tests. For example, if you use certain like network services or Bluetooth devices or rely on the camera, unit and integration tests generally aren't going to catch those. And as developers, we really look at the technical side. Like, does the code work? And if it does, and it worked on my device, and let's say my iPad, my iPhone, my Android device, and it seemed to work for some of the testers, if you have access to that luxury, then it's like, okay, ship it. Now, the technical side of it, passing unit tests doesn't help the business side at all. And we're going to get into why that's important. And as developers, once we've shipped the app, there's just a lot we don't know. When things are going wrong, there's a lot we don't know. And when things are going right, there's certain things that we should know so that we can make better decisions. And the reasons for this are many. Number one, we're not in the field. When you go and you build your app, you're a developer of one. It's just a one-to-one experience, you and your app, and it seems to be working. You test the features that you want, even if you have a full test suite, but you're not the 10,000 people that you rolled the app out to. And once it's out in the field and it's shipped, what crashes are occurring? How do you find out what those are? You could do logging, like simple logging to a service, and hope that you catch it, but that's pretty hard to visualize. And if you're not careful, if you don't have any logging, you could have an issue that you don't even know about in the field. Where is this issue occurring? Is it happening? I'll turn my camera off so I can save some bandwidth. On which devices are we having this issue? And not just are we having an issue, but what led up to getting to that issue? So what were the steps that it took? Kind of like a replay of a session. Did the users use our app in certain unexpected ways? For example, are a lot of users suddenly using this offline versus online? Maybe there's a number of users that sit in a basement and have no internet connectivity. Who knows? And there's just things that we simply can't replicate because we're not at scale or in the wild. We're not 10,000 people. We're not out there. There's so many different mobile device combinations. We can't possibly predict them all. We might. There's probably ways that you could, through like UI testing, walk through a few things and use like Xamarin's Test Cloud. But that's not going to help you with all the different scenarios. For example, if you use Bluetooth, the test devices in the cloud don't have Bluetooth connections, so you can't test that capability. Also, permissions. How do you grant? What happens when a user didn't grant a permission and your app isn't acting as expected? So, Microsoft has a great solution for this, and it's called AppCenter. It's free. It's super easy to set up. It does a lot more than what we're going to talk about tonight. And it started out as Hockey App. I don't know if anybody remembers Hockey App, which did very basic logging. It was super basic. And then Microsoft transitioned almost all of us to AppCenter. So Hockey App went away, and we got AppCenter. And AppCenter just does so much. It slices, it dices, it can do not only logging, so telemetry and analytics. It can do CI/CD, so you can do automatic builds. You can automatically distribute your apps to the various app stores. You can distribute builds to your users. You can automatically increment build IDs. Uh, it's phenomenal. You can do pretty intense testing automatically as part of your build process, and not pass things if it doesn't pass the tests. It's pretty amazing, and it's it's not something that would require a lot of the configuration know-how that you need if you're using like Azure DevOps to do similar things. So getting started, super duper easy. You create an account, enter the keys it gives you, and the telemetry starts flowing. It's really that simple. I'll show you my screen real quick. This is hopefully everyone can see this. If you can't see it, just pipe up and let me know. This is just what AppCenter looks like when you get in. I'm not going to scroll down because it'll show my keys. But really, all you do is install a couple NuGet packages, and then you run an init command, which looks like this. I'll show you. You basically just say AppCenter start and just type of analytics, crashes, and distribute. Now, you really only need to do analytics and crashes for what we're talking about tonight, but distribute is really cool because you can control whether users have to update their app. It's pretty neat. You can control the distribution process. It's super powerful. All right, let's get back to the presentation. Now, before we go any further, I cannot stress enough that telemetry earns interest. The value of telemetry for crashes is immediately valuable, but the value of telemetry over time is much more so. You don't have to just log crashes. You can log events. and see the user started the app, they went here, then they went there, and then they used these features, and then they went back, and then they used these features. And you can track uh, what screens and functionality users are using on different OSs, how often they're using it, etc. And now you can make better business decisions. So the business, doesn't want to know anything about your code. They want to know about the features they can sell. And why would users use this app that we're paying you to maintain? And you can answer that with AppCenter. You can say, we have N number of users, they use our app on iOS N number of times a day, Android N number of times a day, and they use it for this long, and these are the features that they use. And you can even do that by country. You can see languages. It's pretty fascinating. And those translate to making better decisions as how to maintain your product. You can determine, are features going underutilized? So for example, if you added a capability to your app and you were super excited about it, well, you could look over the course of a month and see the user engagement. You can't just see that looking at logs. You need a telemetry and analytics platform in order to do it. And you effectively get that for free with AppCenter. I've got a few other examples here, like our firmware updates working over time. Are we having better stability on iOS or Android? Where are my users located? But over time, this data becomes so valuable because you can prove improvement. You can show that your crashes went down. You can show if crashes went up. You can show if usage went up or down. And you can see if your utilization across different countries has gone up or down. Those are all business things. The developers may not care one way or another, but the business definitely does. And when they come asking for, metrics, you should have something to provide. And the best thing is for the most part, App Center is just turnkey. You get a lot of the base questions answered simply by installing App Center and doing nothing else. So we're going to walk through App Center. I'm going to show you some examples of what it does. We're going to take a look at my driver's license tracker app, pardon me, my learner's permit logging tracker app. And this is an app I wrote. Gosh, it was pre-COVID, maybe 2019. Let me think. No, it was earlier than that. Let's see, my kid was 16 at the time, or no, he was 17, 17. So it was 4 years ago. So right around 2017, and then I think I did like one update. But it's and the whole point of it was I don't know how many people have kids right now, or in their teenage years or had them in their teenage years. Um, he had to fill out an hours sheet that was, how many minutes or how long did I drive each day, and you had to specify whether it was day or night driving. And they gave you this piece of paper, and you never remembered this piece of paper, and I knew I would never remember it. It would get all torn up, and we'd never track it. But one thing I didn't want to do was lie. So I wrote an app to track it, to track the driving hours, and it was very simple. Has it lets you increment in 15-minute increments, so you don't have to enter any numbers. Use plus minus, day or night, and then save, and then it could even back up to the cloud. Uh, and the cool thing was it would back up to the cloud with a special code that only you're supposed to know, and that way I never got any kids' personal information because I had to think about that, right? If kids are using the app, I can't have their personal information sitting on a server somewhere. Yeah, just that's a bad thing. Anyway, it was mildly successful. I think I charged for it for like a couple weeks and then I just released it free. Um, But it got a lot of downloads, which was pretty cool. But one thing I wanted to do was do analytics. Like, okay, how are people using my app? Am I getting any crashes, etc. Pretty neat. I think for me now it's pretty commonplace. Like I can't really build an app and not have analytics in it. I just can't fathom it. So let me show you. So there's two main screens. There's uh, analytics and diagnostics, and there's or two main sections. We're not going to go into all the other ones that you're about to see. But if you have questions and you want me to walk through any of them, like CI/CD and so forth, I'm happy to after the presentation. So let's go over analytics. So simply by adding that one line of code, which I showed you, AppCenter start, and you set your iOS and your Android key right here. By the way, this is a Xamarin Forms app, so it's iOS, Android. I didn't do UWP in this one. And then I just built all the AppCenter stuff into a little logging service so I can just call it from anywhere. So I can like log an exception, and then I tell AppCenter to track the error, log the event, and I can send additional details over. But anyway, out of the box, I click analytics, and this is what I get. This beautiful graph that tells me how many active users I have per month, what the change has been, how many times per day users are using my app, for how long, which these make sense. You're going to load my app and then you're going to say, okay, I drove 15 minutes today, and then you're going to close it. That's it. I would be very surprised if I found people using this for like more than a minute, like 1 to 30 minutes. Okay, that's probably like 1 to 2 minutes. Maybe they ran a backup or something, or it was their first time using the app. But on average, people use my app for 37 seconds. That's a super important set of information, because if you built an app, let's say for your corporate services, and people are only using it a couple times a day, and you were expecting them to use it a lot, well, why is that the case? You would never see that as a developer. You might not even imagine it. Even the product managers might not realize it. So are you meeting your expectations? And you can see that here. It's not a code issue, it's a business issue. You can see your top devices here. You can see your OS distribution. So note that I'm looking at my Android version. I also have iOS. And I only released this in the US and Canada, just because I didn't think this would be useful for anyone outside of the US and Canada. Let's see, active users per version. I only released one version, so it makes sense that 100% of my active users are on version 1.0. Now, on the same side, I can go and take a look at iOS. So let's see, Auri, iOS. I can take a look at my analytics there. I got a slightly higher number of people using it. Oh, I think my dog found someone. Someone must be walking outside. About the same usage. I found this to be the case. If I have an app on two different platforms, I have found that the usage tends to be relatively similar. Now, I have more users monthly on iOS, 2,000 users, versus I think it was a few hundred on Android. Now, this is just the overview. So the base capability is this is what you get out of the box. And we're going to go into diagnostics too. Diagnostics, we'll get into that in just a moment. You also get that right out of the box. Now, you can also track events. So as part of my analytics and my overview, I can also track events. And I can see how many people added an entry this month. 9.4 thousand. And it's down a little bit. How many people used my backup service, which I pay for some of that stuff? How many people viewed the PDF that lets you download the filled out form? You can see all of that. I also I track caught exceptions. So if I ran into any issues that I could safely catch and handle myself, I track those here as well. Um, Registration iOS, that just means they registered for backup. That's what that guy is. Oh yeah, there's all these cool capabilities. So I can see how many people are using the features in my app. So 2,000 active users, a lot of them are using my backup feature. So that's great because it took me a long time to really think how I wanted to do that. Um, People are definitely updating and deleting entries, but not many people used my restore feature. So do I want to call attention to that? Maybe. Are view PDF and share PDF because they're not being used that often? Should I surface those better? Should I make a correction to the app? Now, you can click into these and dive in. How many users are using the entry added? What's the count per user? So on average, people add about what, 8.11, and then count per session, one or less. That makes perfect sense. I mean, you're probably not going to use more than one entry or make more than one entry on at least a daily basis. So that coincides with what I would expect. But all of this information I just have by adding um, just log entries. That's all this is. Pretty cool stuff. Um, so just so you know how I did this, uh, I was explaining this earlier. I just used a dependency service and I created a logging service. And so I just use this across a lot of my apps. And I just basically copy and paste this thing in. So is it initialized? Yeah, if it's not, I go and I set it up. And you might know this already, but the dependency service, everything you get out of it is a singleton. So you just get the one instance. That's it. You don't get multi-instance out of the dependency service. Now you could use something else for, like a true IOC container and do DI. I didn't do that. So it's just, there was no reason to go through all that configuration. And then every time I wanted to put the data into AppCenter, I would just call my logger. So I would say logger, log event. This is from different code, but uh, for example, here's my information. Here's the event that I want to track, and then any additional detail I want to provide. So you can add metadata on top of your events, and you can get counts on that. So for example, if someone was, I don't know, tracking their learner's permit hours and they had an option to say what kind of car they were driving, you could track that additional metadata. And then underneath entry added, you would see Ford, Chevy, Mercedes, Lexus, and the count next to each of those. So you can have metadata for your events. Pretty neat. Okay. And if you like, you can actually do log flows. I don't think we're going to see much of anything right now, but you can actually see live data coming through. So especially if you have a much more active app, you can see live data coming through in your app. It's really neat. Okay, so we talked about analytics. So what about diagnostics? So analytics, super useful for business side. But what about finding out about issues in the field? What kind of problems am I having in the field? Well, that's where diagnostics come in. If you take a look, you can click diagnostics. And in my iOS version, I've actually had no crashes because I'm just awesome. But I know Android did have some crashes. But you can see there's been no crashes, there's been no errors. Kind of proud of that. So let's go take a look at the Android version. And we'll take a look at the diagnostics, which did, I think, have a couple crashes. So you can see I haven't had any errors, but I did have a couple crashes. One on May 1st or May 9th and one on May 12th. And it'll give you the stack trace. And I can click that and it'll explain how many people were affected. So 3% to 2 to 3% of my users were affected, but 0.6% of my users in the last 30 days. So that's a very important metric. Like if you saw a spike and it says this is affecting 11% of your users, you better get on that. But that's a high level view that you would never get out of a simple logging service or just looking at logs. But this is a very important tool. So I can see which devices were the most affected, which OS. So maybe Apple releases a new version of iOS and suddenly your crashes go up. That would be reflected here. Now, I can also dive into the reports. So here's the crashes that have occurred for this particular error. And it's showing me what, 8 of them, thereabouts. So I can see when it happened on which type of device. You can even set user IDs. I don't do that because for privacy on this, I can't do that. That would be bad. So I'll go take a look at Galaxy Note 8. So this crashed on May 11th. It happened in the United States. So if you had a regional issue, maybe a data center was down, you could figure that out. What network they were on, how long they were using the app before it crashed, and what was happening on the main thread. Now, how did I get to this point? What was the user doing that caused the crash? Well, that's where the combination of adding events happens. So if I'm tracking everything that the user is doing through my events, like they added an entry, they changed the screen, etc., that log, that trail is tracked in AppCenter. And so I can see they added an entry and then the app crashed. So I can check to see, look at this. It happens after people add an entry. I can see how common it is just by looking at the events. Looking at code wouldn't give you this perspective, but using telemetry and analytics effectively gives you a much better top-down view of how your thousands of users are using your app. And if they're running into issues, how are they running into the issues? And keep in mind, this is all free. Everything we're doing right now is free. It doesn't cost anything. So pretty fascinating. All right. So I'm also going to show you, you can go beyond this. So there's what I've shown you already. I imagine you think it's pretty amazing. Maybe you don't, but it's incredibly useful. Hopefully you see the value there. But you can go even further than AppCenter and what it's giving you. So AppCenter is phenomenal for diagnostics, for high-level analytics, and for CI/CD, it's great, especially for mobile apps. Like if you want a distribution solution for getting your app into your beta testers' hands and automatically submitting to app stores, it can handle all of that stuff for you. Like I said, the distribution, CI/CD, that's not a topic for tonight, but I think we're talking about that in about 2 months. I'm going to present on that. I use that pretty heavily. So you can go beyond all this, and as long as you have an Azure subscription, you can export all of your data in effectively real time to Application Insights, which if you've ever used App Insights, you can do so many amazing things with App Insights. Um, it's not expensive. I mean, I think you get a gigabyte free with App Insights. So I'm not sure that I've paid anything for any of the data in any of my apps because my own personal apps don't have that many users. Um, and my own company apps, maybe it's costing like $10 or something. I mean, it's negligible, especially for the value of the data that you're getting out of it. And you can do amazing things like user mapping and user funnels. And I'll try to show that to you here in a moment. So let's see if I can make that happen. So in your settings, you can just say, what is it, data management? Where is it? Export. There it is. You just add an export to Application Insights. This one's disabled for whatever reason. So let me see if I can find one for, let's see, Fisher's Test iOS. Let's see if I have that. Analytics. Let's see, is that wired up? Oh, I wonder why it's disabled. I never turned it off. That's annoying. Okay. I was hoping I could show you that. Let's see. Let's see if any of these are enabled. For me. That's not going to help. It's not enabled in there. It's enabled in here. Oh, yay. It's enabled in my driving hours tracker iOS, so that's good. I'm also going to go turn that back on in my Android one. I don't know why that got turned off. That really scares me. There we go. Now it's enabled. Okay, whatever. Ship it. So we go back to iOS, go to our analytics, and let's see if we can get this to work. Okay, so here we are, App Center export, driving hours tracker, iOS. This is the bucket I created in Application Insights. So you can do some very cool things. Like you can say, show me my users. And so I can see how many users used it over time. I can also view more insights. My performance has been excellent. I can drill down into country and region, operating system, meet my users. So you can just meet random users and see what they do and view their timeline. Let's see. Um, how many people used a backup, or let's see, how many people, how many backed up versus restored over the course of, let's see, by, can I say by city or country or region? Let's see. I wonder if I can do city. Yeah, I didn't think that I got that information. Um, let's see. By OS version. So can you see how I can just manipulate my data in so many different ways? It's pretty fascinating. and I could show it over, say, like the last 90 days. See if it changes the data. Oh yeah, you can see it's slowly updating. And you can create some amazing charts out of all of this. Also very cool. This is a lot of fun. Uh, how does my user use the app? So on average, how do my users use the app? So starting from um, the session starting, so start the session log. Don't use start service log, use start session log. I had to learn that. Over the course of the last 14 days, um, I don't really care about these. Well, maybe I do. Let's add them back in, right? Who ended up at any of these? Let's create the graph. Look at that. They started the session. Most people start at entry added and then they ended. Or they started the app, didn't do anything. Like maybe they just looked at how many hours do I have left? Like how many hours have I total booked? And they just ended. So look at that. Look how many people just started my app and then, just left to go do something else. Because my app will tell them the total number of hours that they have already. How many people went to the app and updated it? So this makes sense. Some people opened the app and immediately updated an app. So maybe they went and drove a bit more and updated an entry. So I can learn how people use my app simply by creating a quick graph. No log is ever going to tell you this. And I can prove to people that this is the case. So, like I can give you an example. I had someone in customer service say, "Hey, we're getting a complaint. I've had a couple complaints about an issue." Yeah, and if you got a couple complaints, you might think that, "Oh my gosh, it's affecting everybody." But I was able to go and create a graph like this, and I was able to see almost no one was dealing with this issue. People were using the app with no issues. They were not getting stuck at the part that the perception would be that they were getting stuck. But actually, we had very few users that were being affected. But I could prove that graphically, that how many people are actually being affected by the issue. So this is there's so much more you can do here. You can do funnels. You can break down your events. You can track your sessions. It's pretty cool. And this again, for the most part, is free. Yeah, just application insights inside of uh, inside of Azure. I haven't played with this in a while. Like how many people went to like entry added? Let's see. See if I can do this. Is it letting me choose it? Why is it suddenly going really slow? To shared the PDF or viewed a PDF. And can I view it? I haven't played with this feature in a while. Yeah, so what has my conversion been? So I can figure out how many people went from backup occurred to what I want, and I can check my conversion rate. Another thing that you can use in business. What's the conversion rate? We use this feature. So how many people, after we notified them that a new feature was available, went and upgraded to the latest firmware and then started using the new feature? That's a conversion. That has business value. I can do that simply by adding the events in AppCenter and then exporting to Application Insights, and then I can use user funnels to track conversion rates. I think that would be, what was it, 4 lines of code? I mean, unless you went, my route, which I built an interface and implemented it. So, okay, if you take the curly braces out, okay, maybe you have like 18 to 20 lines of code. and look at all the business value that you're immediately getting simply by adding a few lines of code. And of course, the technical value of being able to track your diagnostics. So what I've shown you, of course, is that you can use AppCenter to do amazing things. You can look at your analytics, you can use your diagnostics, and then, of course, you can go even further and use application insights to do even more. Oh, we have a new guest. Go. That's actually all I have. I didn't add an end slide. My bad. I'll add a thank you slide, and then yay, and then show that to you. Great. So hopefully that was interesting for you. I hopefully that shows how valuable this data can become over time. So immediate gratification and usefulness in the diagnostics, long-term usefulness through the analytics and the application insights integration, incredibly valuable from both the technical and the business side. Does anyone have any questions? None? No questions? Oh, wait, maybe there is. I see there's a chat. Do you need to ask the user permission to send this data? No, you don't. But, big but there. On iOS, they do have privacy details that you now have to populate when you're submitting your app to the App Store. I did not notice users getting prompted in any special way because we're not sharing the data for, like we're not collecting any PII, personally identifiable information. It's only for diagnostic and technical needs. So it didn't affect the user experience. Now I imagine that if I said that I was using it for marketing purposes, which I'm not lying in any way, like there's various apps that I've worked on, but really we just use it for telemetry. Like I look at things almost every week, and especially after any release, I'm watching our AppCenter dashboard for just every day, multiple times a day, to make sure we don't have some unknown, unexpected error, unexpected bug that nobody caught. Because you could have a dozen people test your app, and yeah, they just won't catch it. It doesn't make them bad. It just means they didn't catch it. Maybe they're on a Galaxy Tab S and everyone tested on a phone. Or maybe they used an iPhone SE, like the original one. And it's a small display. And they never took into account, how small that display was. Everyone, maybe everyone has a nice phone, like a brand new, really nice, large screen phone, which is, what a lot of people have these days. But there's a lot of people, especially outside of the United States, that have this little thing. Not, there's the iPhone XR, right? Cheap iPhone, or well, now it's the iPhone SE, looks the same. But a lot of people have this iPhone SE, the other $400 iPhone SE, and this thing's only what, like a 3.5-inch or 4-inch display? Super small. Things look very different on that display. Oops, make sure that is unplugged. There we go. I need to shock my computer. So hopefully that answered your question, Alexander. Eric, yeah, if you can get all this information for free, why wouldn't you? It doesn't cost you anything. It offers you real world business value and real world technical value. You can make better decisions with the data you have, and you don't have to work hard to get it. So it's just a win all the way around. What's the question? Tracking usage and marketing material and times to push to customers. I'm not sure what you mean. What do you mean, Eric? Usage and marketing material. Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, for example, it's not really marketing. I'm not sure if you're saying that, would you use that in a nefarious way? Are you saying if that's the possibility, or are you just saying that it has the benefit there?
They could use it nefariously to target you from like when to push stuff to you. It's like Google does and everything else, sure Android tracks is that what they're
Oh yeah.
because I mean I've seen this on Android a little bit. This has been around on Android for a bit, but I haven't really dove into it, so but it's definitely to sell stuff to you and tracking you. It's just
I
kind of
guess
scary.
you could, right? I mean, I know none of the apps I've ever built. I take that back. There was one that I built that I had user IDs. Um, but it wasn't like the user's name. And I didn't track anything about the user. But the reason I tracked it was that if there was an issue, and I think it was an internal app, so it was totally okay to do it. I could reach out to the person that was having issues and say, "Hey, it looks like you're having issues. Can you tell me what's going on?" Um, but I think all the other apps I've ever built are completely anonymous. I know nothing about these users other than, they're just a GUID, and their data combined is what I'm looking for. Um, trying to get to I guess there are ways that you could do these things nefariously, but I don't know that you would use AppCenter to do it. I think you'd have separate services if you're going to track that kind of data. But with Apple, their latest stuff, their latest privacy requirements uh, forbid that. You have to disclose it. Otherwise, they'll take you off the store. And unless you're Epic, you need Apple's store to distribute your product, and you need Google's store to distribute your product. So, you're punished for not playing nice or playing with with your cards on the table. What was the question? Scott asks or says, I know this is a bit off topic, but to the point about so many hardware combinations, is there a subset of hardware that generally will catch most issues during testing? I would say make sure that you test with multiple screen sizes, connected and disconnected, and with permissions not granted. That's a huge one. People will remove permissions because of paranoia. So don't assume that the user gave you permission to do things. So if it's an action that you're taking on your device and it requires an OS permission, such as camera or storage, it all varies by OS, but generally camera and media access or file system access are things that you must, give them access to. They must grant permission. Well, camera and media, you get automatic file permission in iOS, just not external. So yeah, I would track those. So permissions, your screen sizes, and your network connectivity. Those are huge, especially if they're driving. Like, if they're driving and they go through a tunnel and they were uploading something, how do you gracefully handle that? That's not your app's fault that they lost internet connectivity, and it's not really their fault. It's just the feature of their travels. So you need to be able to assume that the device does not have connectivity, or that you can uh, resume or gracefully handle unexpected uh, connection state changes. Yeah. Do you have to share your app analytics data with Microsoft? No. No, you don't. I mean, it's stored on Microsoft servers. So I imagine that in their terms of use, it says that they are allowed to perform the term, the term is like perform, so store and perform your data. Well, that's because you're keeping your data on their servers. So if you're going to say that you have some sort of copyright claim on it, and I'm not an attorney, you still have to give them the right to perform it back to you. Otherwise, they'd be liable. It's kind of like that Facebook thread that every few years shows up where people post to their wall. I do not grant you permission, Facebook, or I hereby don't grant you permission to store all my details, etc. Which is hilarious because they're posting a post. It's going on Facebook servers, and you want to show to all of your friends. So do you not want to give them permission to show that? Yeah, it's a lack of understanding of how the law works, how copyright law works. Um, so, anyone who's storing your data has to have a right to store your data on their servers. It's just that's the way it is. And if you don't want that, make your own server. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, yay. Well, thank you very much for coming. I'm going to stop the recording now, and the recording will be available. It usually takes me a couple days to get it up there, but it'll be on that playlist. So let me go ahead and stop recording.